So welcome back, guys, to We Talk Boxing, and today I'm going to be talking about the up-and-coming fight which is taking place this weekend, and it sees Canelo Alvarez enter the ring again, but this time he's defending his belt against Edgar Berlanga. Now, this is a very, very tough fight in my eyes for Canelo Alvarez, as it sees a young pup, a young hungry pup in Berlanga, looking to try and defeat him and obviously take the titles off him. We all know that Canelo is the main man in the 168-pound division, currently has 3 of the 4 belts, only recently been stripped obviously of the IBF, or he vacated, whatever, but he no longer has it. But he was the main man, obviously having all 4 belts, including the Ring magazine, but that belt no longer exists, and it's still vacant as of this date. But Berlanga, he's currently number 1 in the WBA, and obviously Canelo is the champion. So it's pretty much, you know what I mean, one versus the champ, really, in this fight. But Berlanga himself, as I mentioned earlier, he is a young pup. 27 compared to Canelo Alvarez, but he's unbeaten. He's only had 22 contests and he's still unbeaten with 17 KOs to his name. Now, in terms of height, most of us would have seen the head-to-heads and the press conferences. Berlanga is the taller fighter, and to me, it looks quite big as well in terms of width-wise. It looks quite big in terms of his body, but come fight night, I can't see that being the main issue for Canelo Alvarez. What could be an issue for Canelo Alvarez would be the arm reach. And we all know that if someone has a good jab, they've got bigger arm reach, that could cause a bit of trouble or issues for Canelo Alvarez. That's better off me saying a bit of issues for Canelo. But the height is not a major issue because for Canelo, I no doubt think that he's gonna pretty much target the body, look to try and break down Berlanga from the body, and then eventually, you know what I mean, catch up with his head and try and knock him out at some point. But if Berlanga, you know what I mean, could establish his jab from the get-go, and because of that arm reach, could potentially be the big difference in this fight. I'm gonna say my prediction for this fight would probably be that it's gonna go down to the scorecards. I reckon Canelo will win on a unanimous decision, but I feel as if it could be a close fight between the pair. A couple of points in it here or there. And I reckon Canelo's going to get asked a couple of questions, and the questions that he may ask is, does he still, you know what I mean, has he still got it at the highest heights in terms of at the top end of his game, and does he still really want to, you know, maybe fighting against these young pups, because these young pups are only out to, you know what I mean, to try and dethrone him and try and take his name and his reputation and his belts, everything that he's worked hard for over the years. So yeah, for me, this is a make or break fight, and this will tell me how much Canelo Alvarez has left. He's one of my favourite fighters, and you know what I mean, I will be staying up late to watch this fight because, as I mentioned, Canelo's one of my favourites currently who's still there, and he guarantees us a minimum of 2 fights per year, and that's something that, you know what I mean, a lot of us take for granted, because once Canelo's gone, he's not going to be guaranteed. There's not a lot of top fighters now that are guaranteeing us that. It's very rare. Obviously, Inoue is an anomaly currently. He's had what? This is his, I think he's had 3 or 4 fights already this year, something like that. So yeah, he's an anomaly. But most of the top fighters are only fighting once, maybe if you're lucky, twice. So yeah, I will certainly miss Canelo when he does finally hang up the gloves. But in terms of going forward, there's bigger names in that division. People want to see the. Obviously, you've got Morale, who's a formidable opponent in himself, and you've obviously got Benavidez. Now, both of these guys have had to move up to 175-pound division because, as they say, Canelo's been ducking them. I don't think it's that, but I think it's just the money, because Canelo sees that these guys are younger, they're hungry, obviously they're bigger than him. Why go in there, put all his eggs in one basket for what? You know what I mean? Obviously, he's going to get paid a lot of money compared to me and you, but he wants a good, substantial pay difference in terms of taking these these dangerous fights. So yeah, this fight will tell me whether or not Canelo's going to potentially, maybe at some point next year, look to try and fight one of these two. And if he doesn't look to try and fight one of these two, and he is to come out with his belts and his victory intact, then obviously you've got another young pup in Mbili who's being ranked quite highly in all the governing bodies, and he's going to be looking for his title shot at some point. And is he going to get that against the likes of Canelo, or is he going to go down the vacant route? We don't know yet. We don't know, but there's also been talk about Canelo again jumping up weight to try and take on the winner of Beterbiev or Bivol. And again, this fight will tell me how much more he has left. And if it's against someone like a Beterbiev, and if it's a Beterbiev who fought last and he looked formidable, then I only see one man winning, and I don't see Canelo winning that fight. But if it's against Bivol, who knows? Who knows? Who knows? But anyway, guys, this is my thoughts in regards to the fight this weekend between Canelo and Edgar Berlanga. I see it being a tough fight for Canelo, and for me, as I said, I mainly want to see how he is in the ring. You know what I mean? Is he the older Canelo with the power, the movement, the sharpness, and does he still have that power? Because he hasn't really had a knockout in a while. Canelo Alvarez, he hasn't had a knockout since, was it Caleb Plant? And he's fighting on this bill as well, Caleb Plant. And he's been talking about Canelo, how he would like to have a rematch. So he hasn't had Canelo hasn't had a knockout since him. So yeah, has he still got that power to trouble these super middleweight fighters? But Berlanga, what does he have? You know what I mean? For him, it's a no-win-win situation, because if he just goes in there, puts on a decent performance, maybe cuts it close with Canelo, then he could come back. Because he's so young, he could potentially come back and have bigger fights in the future. But if he goes in there and he absolutely gets destroyed, then it could make or break his career. He might not come back the same fighter, or he probably won't be considered one of the prospects for when Canelo does vacate. But yeah, I see this going to the wire. I see this going to points. I'd love a knockout from Canelo's point of view, but I just can't see it because he hasn't scored a knockout in a while. And in terms of Berlanga obviously had a knockout in his last fight. Yeah, fair play. That was against, I think it was a Paddy McCrory or something like that, whatever. He beat him in 6 rounds anyway, an Irish fighter. But since before that, it was 5-6 fights since he had a knockout, and he was against the guy. Was he an African opponent or something like that? I think it was back in 2020, so it was a while ago. Anyway, I can't remember the guy's name, but anyway, I see it going to points. You guys can let me know your thoughts in the comments below. How do you see this fight going? Who do you make the favourite, and how do you reckon the person's going to win, by points, stoppage, or knockout? As always, guys, please subscribe and comment, and let me know your thoughts. Bless.